Good evening, and we begin at 5 with our homeless crisis and a story of the best intentions that ended up turning into a nightmare. This all has to do with a historic restaurant in Southeast Portland that's being transformed into a community center. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko.
And I'm Laurel Porter. While the building is being converted, the new owners allowed a few homeless people to stay there. But it appears things quickly got out of control. Daisy Caballero's here. So, Daisy, what happened here?
Well, Laurel, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, known as Apano, purchased the historic Canton Grill earlier this year. That's when Apano says it allowed a few people who were houseless to camp on the private property. But if you drive by the partially fenced up lot, you will see there are more than just a few tents.
We're strong supporters of our local business community, and we understand this is a challenge, and we're gonna make it right.
The Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, known as Apano, purchased the historic Canton Grill in Southeast Portland back in February. And with their purchase, an Apano official said they allowed a few people who are houseless to stay on their property. But they now wish for a different outcome, as the entire parking lot has grown in popularity for camping.
I think we should have just honestly just been more clear about what our expectations were and planned ahead. You know, I think as a nonprofit, you know, I think we have to uphold our values as much as possible, but also, you know, we're members of this community.
And they're working to clean things up. Just this weekend, Wang says Apano handed out pamphlets and posted these signs throughout the site, giving people a 2-week notice to pack up their things and leave. Something neighboring businesses say never should have been allowed.
Every day there's dumping of garbage, people pulling up. I mean, there's totally stuff going on over there, and it absolutely reeks.
Austin Jones is the store manager at 4 Wheels Parts right next to the old Canton Grill lot. He says he has never seen the houseless situation this bad so close to his business.
And it's really frustrating for us because we try to keep our stuff clean. We want it to be a good shopping experience for our customers, and then obviously when they're pulling up and they're seeing that happen, they really don't want to leave their vehicles.
Wang says Apano will be putting up a permanent fence around the facility to stop people from camping again. And he wants the community to know they understand this is a challenge for local businesses and people living nearby, and are working to, quote, make things right.
You know, I think it's just something that we're all in this together, and we're going to work through it, and, you know, I'll build the neighborhood that we want to see.
Now, Apano is asking everyone camping on the lot to take their belongings and leave by Monday, May 22nd. They will be providing those who are houseless with resources the day of the cleanup. David, Laurel.
Thank you, Daisy. Let's turn now to the weather in our Wells Fargo sky camera. Heavy rain moved in this afternoon, and we even saw lightning, heard thunder around the metro region. KGW producer Craig Edwards sent us video of the downpour and thunder at his house in Beaverton. Wow, that is something. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafinos here now tracking all of this. Matt, what a change from earlier today.
Yeah, it really gets your attention when we get thunder and lightning. We had this ice cell move over downtown, over the West Hills and out towards Washington County like we just saw. We can still see the rain to the south and east of downtown from our Wells Fargo tower. This is moving away from downtown, as I'll show you. It's cool, though. It's dropped on down to 59 after being well into the 60s earlier in the day. So here it is. Here's this cell, again, from Beaverton and Tigard, now down through Milwaukee towards Lake Oswego and Damascus. This will continue to march on down to the south and east and weaken as we go into the evening hours, but we're still getting lightning strikes from it. So be aware of that. You're going to get some downpours, and if you hear thunder, just go indoors. When thunder roars, go indoors, as we say in meteorology, just to stay safe. Now, as we zoom out a little bit more, there are more showers upstream. There's a pretty good one up around Battleground, so it's not just this one. There's several around the state. But as we go into the nighttime hours, all this activity is going to end, and then our attention will turn to the warm-up that is on the way as we head towards Mother's Day and the mid-90s. It'll take us a while to get there. It's going to be a gradual build-up, so some very pleasant weather between now and then. More on this later. Laurel, back to you.
Thank you, Matt. More news for you now. A landslide is causing issues for Amtrak. It's canceled all trains between Seattle and Portland for the next 48 hours. Amtrak tells us the landslide is covering railroad track about 6 miles north of Vancouver. Amtrak's offering bus service to passengers with the trains out of service. Routes between Portland and Eugene and Seattle and Vancouver, BC are not affected.
Well, to a big change in Salem this evening, where Shemia Fagan is officially out and no longer Oregon's Secretary of State. That resignation taking effect this afternoon, less than 2 weeks after news broke that she worked a side job as a consultant for a troubled cannabis company. Mike Benner joins us now. Mike, walk us through what happens next here.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, David, that the acting Secretary of State will be Deputy Secretary of State Cheryl Myers. She released a statement today saying that her agency is resilient and she does not anticipate any interruptions in service during this transition, a transition that became necessary when we learned that Shemia Fagan had a second job as a consultant for the marijuana dispensary chain Lamoda. It is worth mentioning that it's not totally uncommon for elected officials to take on second gigs in order to make some supplemental income. But here's the deal with Lamoda. Court records indicate the company and associated businesses have racked up millions of dollars in unpaid taxes and have been sued repeatedly for not paying bills. At the same time, Lamoda's owners were making sizable donations to top Democrats across the state, including Fagan. Additionally, as Secretary of State, Fagan was overseeing state audits, including the audit of Oregon's regulations on the cannabis industry, the same industry in which Fagan was working as a consultant. Fagan ultimately made the decision to resign as Oregon's Secretary of State, but not before apologizing to Oregonians. Listen.
I am truly sorry. I exercised poor judgment by contracting with a company that is owned by my political donors and is regulated by an agency that was under audit by my audits division. I am sorry for harming the trust that I and so many others have worked so hard to build.
Again, Deputy Secretary of State Cheryl Myers becomes acting Secretary of State, but for how long is really anybody's guess. We can tell you that Myers will only occupy the office until Governor Tina Kotek appoints a new Secretary of State to complete the remainder of Fagan's term. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Oregon Republicans are once again absent in Salem today, keeping the Senate at a standstill. The Republican walkout started last week, and for now, there are no indications it will end anytime soon. It started after Republicans claimed bills on abortion, gender rights, and gun safety don't pass what's called the readability test. That means the average citizen needs to be able to understand them. State Democrats say the bills do meet the readability standards and that the walkout is really over opposition to new gun laws and abortion rights rather than how the bills are written. The Senate will attempt to reconvene again tomorrow.
And speaking of other state business that has been slowed to a crawl, it includes a potentially life-saving bill that expands access to Naloxone, which reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. Now, the Senate Committee on Health Care moving House Bill 2395 forward this afternoon. That would allow buildings open to the public to stock Naloxone, also known by the brand name Narcan. In schools, teachers and administrators would be able to use Narcan in emergencies without parental permission or the threat of liability. Now, the bill also exempts drug test strips from being identified as drug paraphernalia and improves tracking of opioid deaths and treatment.
Thank you for all the work that you and others in the House have done on this bill, because we really do realize that it's an incredibly serious issue and lives are being lost. And so thank you for this legislation, which will hopefully save many lives.
Well, the bill sponsors say they hope it will make Narcan more accessible and that more people will learn how and when to use it. Now it goes to the Senate for a vote.
There's controversy surrounding a candidate running for the Portland School Board. He was a longtime captain with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Last week, he withdrew from the race after reports of his ties to prominent Christian nationalists. But he's now apparently changed his mind, saying he'll serve if elected. Let's bring in Blair Best. And Blair, is Derek Peterson running for school board or not?
Well, Laurel, that's the big question we're all trying to figure out here. He withdrew from the race last week, which was way past the deadline to officially withdraw. So his name will still be on the ballot. However, new reports today are showing that he said on Friday he would serve if elected. Now, his last-minute withdrawal is in response to a report from Rolling Stone magazine last week. It exposed his ties to prominent Christian nationalists, including being a top member of a church run by a man who backed Donald Trump during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He's also on the board of an anti-abortion nonprofit. That's all according to Rolling Stone. Now, last week, Peterson announced his unofficial withdrawal in a statement on his campaign website. But today, that statement was nowhere to be found on the site. Peterson had said his involvement with various churches had taken a toll on his family and distracts from the critical work that needs to be done. Today, Willamette Week reported that Peterson texted a current board member on Friday saying he will, quote, remain on the board if elected. Now, Portland Public Schools declined to talk with KGW on camera today, saying they're unable to comment on political campaigns. We've also reached out to Peterson and emailed all the members of the Portland Public School Board, but did not hear back. But we did talk with several parents today who say they were unaware of the controversy. Some said they weren't even going to fill out that section of the ballot. And ballots are due May 16th. David, Laurel.
Even with that confusion, still important to vote. Thank you, Blair.